Hello, my lovely Pisces. Apologies for being so late in the week and getting this out, but this is your reading for the week of May 3rd, or whenever you hear this and it resonates. Pisces, this won't be for everybody. The image that I get is, those cartoon cats when they poke their paws and all of a sudden, ding, these claws come out and they have the little glitter on the end of them because they're so razor sharp, and it's like, ah. But then what I see the cat licking the claw to clean it and cutting its own tongue on it. So I feel this is a warning for some of you, a caution, let's say a caution, that if your claws are coming out in some way, be careful that you don't communicate it in a way that turns around and ends up hurting you. This could be something that is just a conversation about something where you have to defend yourself or where you feel like you have to stand up for yourself. You're being asked to use kindness and compassion, okay? And to really focus on one thing at a time. Now, I don't always know what I'm going to say before I start this. It comes to me as I'm working with the cards. And as I follow the images and sounds that I'm getting, the only one thing at a time I feel is relating to what seems to be some kind of conflict / negotiation, something of that kind, where you're being told, don't go back and bring 16 things up at once. Deal with one issue at a time, okay? Now, the other interesting thing, as I was looking for clarification specifically on that, what I get is a childhood card. And that goes back to the first 3 cards that I pulled, or the first set of cards that I pulled, which were very much child energy, okay? Shame, can't and won't, and then pain. So I'm looking at this, and now we've got ideal childhood. So I feel as though the conversation that you're having or the experience that you're having, and again, it could only be a conversation that you're having in your mind as you're going back over stuff. That's possible too. But what I'm feeling is whatever the conflict or whatever the issue is, it doesn't necessarily have to be about your childhood or about the past specifically, or not the distant past. It could just be that you're being asked to look at, there you go, you get forgiveness. So you're being asked to look at your patterns around forgiveness. And it might be, again, it might be a situation from the past that you're forgiving, or it could just be the way you look at forgiveness and blame and shame according to how you were raised, or a situation specifically that happened. But it feels to me as though you're really being asked, give that stuff up, because what you're being asked to remember is that when we're looking at this in regards to developing ourselves spiritually into a higher spiritual consciousness, it's relevant to forgive when that is holding you in a position of hanging on to something that is not good for you. Resentment, blame, shame, all of that stuff. The forgiveness card, I know that there are things out there now that says sometimes it's healthy not to forgive. Well, I won't go into a big explanation of that energetically, but what I will say is whenever there is a heavy frequency, blame, regret, shame, it holds the personality often into patterns that are not expansive and doesn't allow for new views. And it holds people back from living from their full heart. So if that's the case, definitely forgiveness is relevant for you to do. And, again, it's positioning it within the context of, if we are looking at this from a metaphysical, spiritual purpose, we're all here to learn and grow, and we have the opportunity to take any situation, even the really horrible ones, and learn something from them in a way that moves us towards a more expanded view of life. Now, I know that that can sound really simplistic and really hokey, and just like New Age fairy dust. But if it's something that you have that attitude towards, you might want to investigate some of the work of Viktor Frankl, who was a prisoner of war in the Second World War in a Nazi camp and a Nazi concentration camp. And I can't remember the title of the book specifically where he addresses that. But, that is a perfect example of somebody who chose to take what was just a horrific situation and grow from it. And so I encourage you to consider that even if it seems ridiculous, even if it seems like New Age hooey, even if it seems impossible, check it out. You might find some insights there from somebody who's gone through it in a way that is deeply powerful and deeply empowering. So I leave you with that, my dear Pisces. For whoever this resonates with, just know that you really are. You're a delightful and wonderful sign, full of creativity, full of life. You don't have to create out of pain. You can create out of joy. All right? I leave you with that, Pisces. Take care.